introduce the one, the only, from Hotep Nation, Hotep Jesus. Welcome to the show, brother.
What up, Sonnie? Thank you for having me.
So thank you so much for coming back through. So one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that I got you on today, especially, was because you have something really special coming up with Hotep Nation. So can you tell us about the Griftees real quick? Because I have seen imitators coming after y'all's creation, and I just want to make sure the original and the authentic is given its spotlight.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro copied us, Glenn Beck, Fox, the Chinese app, what was it called, Getter, or something like that. Yeah, they all pretty much copied our idea of having an award show. So this is our second annual. It comes out on the 27th. Pastor Darrell Scott will also air it on his TV channel. So I can't wait for that. You know, basically what happened was it just started as a joke. You know, we noticed that so many people were grifting, being dishonest with people, and a lot of this stuff led to calamity. I would say dysfunction within the Republican right wing, and there's grifters on both sides. But so we just wanted to, poke fun at these individuals. Last year, a big person that was part of the Griftees, Candace Owens, got nominated for two categories. Sean King won one. So it was fun. I don't want to spoil this year's nominees or winners, but we have a lot of great people presenting, some famous names presenting. But yeah, it's just having fun and making light of the fact that these people create so much dysfunction in the world.
Are y'all voting on this, or have you already picked everybody? Because I want to make sure if voting is still open, I want to direct people to where they can vote.
Well, Griftees.com, you can go nominate and vote people. But the Griftees are recorded and done, and they'll air next week. But you can get in for next year.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So make sure you go to Hotep Jesus's YouTube channel. And what day do they air?
The 27th. That'll be next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Make sure that, of course, that's Hotep Thursday. But make sure you go and you check out the Griftees live. I promise you, I laughed so hard last year. Definitely love being a fan of what you guys created. Honestly, I am a fan. So make sure if you get the opportunity on Thursday night, go and check out Hotep Jesus' channel. And definitely catch the Griftees with Uncle Hotep, okay? So I wanted to bring you on. What do you think about the politics of today? Because I feel like you're like me and one of those people where instead of asking you a specific question, I want to see where your mind is.
Politics today. Politics today is a scam. Here's the biggest issue. The people that need to be in Senate are not in Senate. And the people that are in Senate should be given a permanent vacation somewhere. I think, we can blame the people in Senate. We can blame people in the House of Representatives and all these congressmen. But I think the people that we have to blame is ourselves, because without us, these people don't land in those positions. I think we have to take control over our local politics. And I'd like to see more blue-collar workers moving into these roles. Some people that don't have political experience move into these roles. It might sound counterintuitive, but counterintuitive is exactly what you need to keep the powers that be off guard. I think that's why Trump worked out so well, at least for us. But politics today, let's talk about just specifically on the right. It's been reduced to talking points. The barrier to entry to be an influencer, a grifter, or a politician has been reduced to, a handful of talking points. And if these people, say the right things in these talking points, you're like, all right, cool, let's do it. But there's no nuance to the conversation. The people that are voting for these individuals aren't educated enough to know what to look for in an individual. They don't understand the history of this country. They don't understand the history of money. They don't understand the history of war and how things were coerced because of money. I wrote a book called The Patriot Report that discusses these things specifically because I wanted people to understand how far back corruption in this country goes, and it goes back to the very early inception of the country. But politics today, I find, is not much different than the past. It's just that technology has, I think, at least back in the day, you had to have some real credentials, and I think voters are a lot more educated and more critical. Today, it's just like, hey, you say the right punchline, and everybody thinks you're the greatest thing ever.
And that's one of the reasons why I reject trying to be the greatest thing ever. I'm like, no, I want to be irritating and agitating, and as I've been called lately,
Yeah, that's so
complicated.
necessary.
Yeah. Okay. So let me
Disruptive. I would
preface
call
the
it
whole
disruptive.
reason. The reason that I really I'm gonna let you back up exactly what you just said, but this is what really hit me and was like, okay, if I'm gonna talk about this with anyone, I need to talk about this with Hotep Jesus. So let's go ahead and play that Biden sound.
But even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. What are your thoughts on that statement from Biden?
Well, I think he's absolutely right, and there's two reasons why. Number one, I think he's right because of technology. And, so I think it's almost frivolous that he made that comment, because obviously it's bigger because social media amplifies everything so much more than back in the day. But I think he's right not because George Floyd would have been bigger than MLK. They made him bigger than MLK. He was astroturfed. They ran it around the clock. They made us watch that 9-minute video. I mean, think about the fear mongering by the media to play that video over and over and over again, right? And that was really to inflame the black community, get the left riled up, try to get Trump out of office. But had George Floyd been organic, he doesn't even come into the conversation of MLK. It's them that's shoehorning him into the MLK. Like, those two things do not correlate at all, right? But when they say he's bigger than MLK, well, yeah, because that won't stop talking about it. Here it is, MLK Day, and you bring up George Floyd. They've been bringing up George Floyd. They're popping statues up everywhere. It's artificially being created to replace MLK. Just like they're removing statues like Robert E. Lee, Thomas Jefferson, whoever. They're rewriting history, and they're trying to usurp the legacy of MLK and replace it with something like George Floyd. So we never look back and we go look at somebody like George Floyd, who I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy, but he was no MLK, okay? But they're trying to rewrite history, and they're doing a very good job of it.
Okay, let me counter you, and you can tell me what you think. I think that they did the same for MLK. So the same way they created Floyd, they created MLK. When you look at the entirety, when you look at the entirety of the civil rights movement, again, I don't think about MLK. Like, I understand that that's what everybody tells me I'm supposed to think about. That's where everybody throws my mind. But that is not what I think about. When I think about the civil rights movement, I think about A. Philip Randolph and the mobilization of the unions. That's what I think about. I think about how they were having their segregation fight, because you had two different groups, the AFL and the CIO, and they were having their fight. When they got over their fight and they merged, that's when you got the conclusion of the civil rights era. All of that never gets talked about, because all we talk about is MLK. So I think that they have done the exact same thing that they did for MLK with George Floyd. And that begs the question of, why would they do that?
Well, they want to mislead us, right? They want to mislead us. They don't want us to look at real leaders. Like, they don't want us to look at Sonnie Johnson. Like, God forbid Sonnie Johnson becomes super huge. We might actually make some change in this country. But you're right. MLK was definitely AstroTurf. That was one of their first guys. In fact, like John Lewis with this whole Voting Rights Act. And they say, well, John Lewis is out there and he's attacked by dogs and all that stuff. It's like, what people don't understand was that was actually a publicity stunt. That was pre-planned. That's why you got cameras there, because the cameras knew where to be, because it was a publicity stunt. It was all pre-planned.
It wasn't like today where everybody could just pull their phones out and start recording. They knew
Correct.
exactly where a lot of these rallies were going to happen, and the blacks that participated wanted them to know. You know, they wanted it to be
Right.
seen. They wanted it to be shown because they wanted it to stop. I'll give them that benefit. You know what I'm saying? That they wanted it to stop. But this is the point where I'm sitting here looking like you're having all of these people and they're having this discussion about whether or not it's disrespectful to MLK, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but he's dead. And George Floyd is dead, and you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to both of them. Not negatively saying it, but we still have to live with what is here. So how do we take this conversation and make it about what is actually happening right now? And this is where I'm like, this conversation, it just goes off a cliff, because we should not be spending this much time fighting over the legacy of however great he may be, if it's not going to change what we're about to accomplish. But here's why I think it is so important. They are signaling that they are changing. And this is my thesis is that the civil rights era is dead. So that whole era of King is dead. And so now by replacing him with Floyd, they are signaling to you that there has been a change. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you look at the black people that are starving themselves for voter rights, are they the young activists? No. The young activists are like, we're going to burn this bitch down. Like, the young activists aren't out there on a hunger strike. It's all of the older ones that are doing that. They are strongly signaling that old era is over. And this is what the new era is going to look like. The new era is going to look like what you got after George Floyd. And I'm sitting here like, if I check Black America, who is like, we tired of being tired. Like, y'all not going to do this. We buying guns. We like, if you start thinking about the psyche of how Black America is thinking right now, I don't know where this goes.
You know what's funny is Patriot J put out a tweet. He said black people voted for voting rights.
Yeah,
because that's all they're getting from Biden. Think about that. They voted to get voting rights. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous how we allow. I would say the black voting bloc, because most black people don't vote, but the black voting bloc is just so manipulated.
Hold on.
Continually shafted.
What second? What did you say about the majority of what?
Majority of black people don't vote.
Okay. I was talking about, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you were in thought, but I was talking about that in the first hour. The thing that scares the hell out of Democrats is not voter suppression. It's voter depression. That black people keep realizing that voting for Democrats is not going to get them anything. So they just be like, you know what? We're not going to vote at all. F y'all. But they go out and do the work. They're going out and they're building, they're buying, they're investing, they're growing, like they're diversifying. They're going out and do the work. They just don't see any value in politics, because politics never changes anything. And this is what I'm trying to tell Republicans. Like, that is your slogan right now. Your slogan right now should be, Democrats are not afraid of voter suppression. They are terrified of voter depression. And the black community no longer coming out and supporting them. So y'all want to keep on hitting us with this idea of voter suppression? Put your money where your mouth is. We are coming after every single one of your depressed voters. So if you are worried so much about not getting those people to the polls, we are going to go get them to the polls. Now, is that not the message? Like, I don't understand why this is so difficult.
I mean, there's a bunch of messages that conservatives and Republicans can use to win the fight. It seems to me they don't want to win the fight. It seems to me that
like they don't even want to fight. They just want the victory to
Yeah,
be
no,
handed to them.
yeah, they just want to be complacent about things, and they're happy the way things are. Because, I always say most of these Republicans are really liberals in disguise. Michael Mouse will say, conservatism is progressivism moving at the speed limit. At least how they're moving today. But yeah, you can't trust most of these rhinos, and I don't know. I just think I hate to just say racism because that's so low. What I think it comes down to is self-interest, right? It's like what black people want ain't gonna get me what I want, right? Me as a white Republican. So if I help black people, what do I get out of it? And if they don't see something that they get out of it, then hey, then why would I even worry about these people?
I can't even argue with that. I can't even say anything outside for that, because that's exactly how they react. And then but the part that gets me is the insincerity when they come back and be like, but we tried, like, we honest, like, no, you didn't. You never had any interest in
No,
it whatsoever. And instead of just being honest about that and saying that, you turn around and tell me I'm complicated because you don't want to
Sonny,
honestly say I just don't care.
Sonny, let me tell you something. Getting the black vote is probably easier than getting the white vote.
Yup.
Like super easy. Like this thing could change in one election. You know what? It takes one word. You know what that word is called? Compassion. There is no compassion from white conservatives, Republicans, when Tamir Rice was murdered,
No.
when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, when George Floyd was murdered. Like, even if you don't, let's say you just wanted to win an election. You think the Democrats really care about George Floyd? No, but they're smart enough to pretend like it. They're smart enough to feign compassion, but conservatives won't even feign compassion. But they go around calling themselves Christians. But they're not acting Christ-like. If you was acting Christ-like, no matter who died, you'd be showing compassion, right? But the first thing you do, somebody died, what did they? Oh, let's look up his mugshot. Let's see what he did in the past.
So
They
I would give an example of that, right? Because, like, one of the issues they're talking about right now is like the bail reform system, right? And how you have a lot of the progressive DAs who that are putting in and reducing or eliminating bail altogether in some legislative forms, right? Um,
Mhm.
Amongst those stories is the story of Khalif Browder, right? If you don't know who
Right,
Khalif
right.
Browder was, he was a teen who died he was sent to Rikers. He was put into the bureaucracy, got lost in the bureaucracy, ended up getting beat up, messed up in jail. His psychological mindset was so completely broken, only to find out he was innocent and they let him go. He goes home and he commits suicide. Um,
Mm-hmm.
these are the stories that black people were bringing up as saying, like, look, these are the things that need to be fixed, right? So as a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, could you not look and see that maybe you should not be locking people up and they're not charged with anything? They're not they're just lost in a bureaucracy. Maybe that is a problem and you should go and you should fix the bureaucracy. But there are no conservatives there. So what does the progressives do? They just go and eliminate the entire bail system altogether. So, like, there are solutions that come along with the compassion that can be put into policy, but you have to be there to actually offer the solutions.
Right, right, right. And I mean, people don't even wait for the facts, right? When things like, somebody's murdered or something like that by a cop, people don't wait for the facts. They just automatically go and say, hey, he's probably a criminal, or whatever, right? What they do is, and again, I blame the people, they follow behind
these grifters, these influencers, right? The people with the large platforms and social media. These people on large platforms and social media are just grifting with their basic bitch talking points.
Mm-hmm.
And what they'll do is they're going to come up with, they'll get their team together and find, everything that happened with this person's past. But it is up to the people to say, no, you on Fox News, you're wrong. We're going to show compassion. And if the entire community said, yo, forget being black. If it's a black person, white person, an American has died, right? They always like to say, well, you black, no, you American. Well, if this American has died and you want to show compassion for this American, show compassion for this American, and then CNN won't be able to say that you're racist white nationalist.
Yep.
And then you'll see black people like, wait, maybe we can go back to the Republican Party. These people are showing compassion. These people are showing up. These people are acting like allies. But the people themselves are following behind their favorite, whoever, Ben Shapiro's of the world, the Candace Owens of the world, and follow behind these people who are just here for clicks and dollars, and then they follow behind them. Meanwhile, you keep losing elections. You keep losing seats. You keep losing freedom. So it's like, are you here for retweets and likes and giggles? Are you here to actually have some freedom left in this country? You see they locked down the whole country. If you had your president in office, do you think they'd have been able to do that? No, but you allow people with poor rhetoric to make you look bad, all because you wanted to laugh about the death of Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd and all these things when it's just not strategic at all.
Oh yeah, that's their favorite thing. We're taking scalps, we're owning the libs, and I'm like, what are you winning? Like what metric are you using to measure the effectiveness of what you're doing here? Because it seems to have no metric. It seems to have no value, nothing, especially long term. And I laugh at it even more, like when you looked at them put the Supreme Court justices on Gorsuch and such. Oh look, we won, and now when Gorsuch started ruling, oh my God, she turned on us. He's a backstab. I'm like, yo, wait a minute, that was your scalp. Like, you was cheering for that. Well, how many footballs did you spike for that? Only to turn around and be like, oh, look at the knife inserted in our back. I'm like, so you got nothing. You got nothing. It was empty rhetoric, empty symbolism, and you got nothing. But I'm supposed to be what? Proud of you? Like, it doesn't work that way. All right, with everything, I think most Americans have gotten to the point where they understand, at the very least, that there is something intrinsically broken within American institutions. And the problem, I think, with the right is that they don't want to believe it. Well, they know it, but they don't want to believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you in that place where I always kind of knew and had this feeling about him, but I didn't really, get the full picture until he snapped and punched me in the face. Like, there's something wrong. You can feel it. But you don't want to admit it and say it out loud, because then you actually have to deal with it. So you would rather play in the shadows and do this silly game that they got you doing with white guilt and all of this crap than to actually just say out loud, hey, we broke some stuff and we need to set about fixing it. And that's going to be a lot of hard work to get it done.
They don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to do the education. They don't want to read the bills. They don't want to show up when it's time to show up. They look what they did to them on the 6th. The 6th, they showed up. They got usurped by federal agents, and Black Lives Matter and Antifa made look like a fool. And then your Supreme Court justices turned on you, right? Just like you said, they turned on you. Why? Because you lowered the barrier to entry to get your approval, right? It's just like, oh, they said the right thing, so they're good. It's just like, no, hold on. We got some more things we'd like to discuss. What if this situation happened? How would you feel about that? They don't properly vet their influences, so how could they properly vet their politicians?
This is what I find funny about that time period, right? So when they were doing the Gorsuch trial, the hearings in Congress, and the Democrats went and rushed the building, right? And I remember in that time period, I was asking Republicans, I was like, could you actually do this? Like, you keep saying we have to fight fire with fire. We have to do what the Democrats do. We have to copy their behavior, right? So when that happened, I asked Republicans and conservatives, I was like, would you do that? Because I wouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't rush the building. I'm not chasing people in the bathrooms. I'm not yelling at them in elevators. I that is not my character. I am not going to do that. Would you do that so you can be in the mud with these people? And then you see January 6th happen, and you're like, oh, yeah, y'all would do that. Y'all would do that. All it is you trying to be just like them. Again, if they could do it, you could do it. If they could get away with it, you could get away with it. Except you realize that you can't. And that's why you got your panties in a bunch. That you realize now you can't get away with what they get away with. Welcome to the Black experience.
Yeah, they the new niggas. It's your turn now. You didn't do nothing then. And now, you see, you got to stand up for what is right because you're going to be next. I think MLK might have had a quote. Stanley Levinson probably wrote it. Who knows? But I believe he had a quote like that. You know, you next. If you don't stand up for what's right, you next. And now it's their turn, and they're like, oh, my God, Black community, we need you to vote. Like, no, nigga, you ignored it when we was complaining. Now you want my help?
I sit there and laugh like, this been happening to us for 120 years. It's been happening to y'all for what, 4 years maybe? And y'all already got y'all hands up in the air like, we can't do this anymore. Like, okay, we've been doing it for 120. Welcome. Like, and this is like after the Civil War. We've been doing this for 120 consistently under progressivism. Welcome to the party. Like, if you had listened to us, I think you'd be better prepared for this. All right, I'm going to let you wrap up. We're going to have to get ready to go out for a moment. So I'll let you have a last word.
I mean, the biggest problem is the Black community needs Republicans to get their shit together. Because if the white Republicans ain't free in America, we damn sure ain't going to be free in America, right? So we literally need y'all to get y'all shit together. But y'all won't. Y'all keep failing, and then you looking at us to bail y'all out. No, this your country, white man. Allegedly, y'all brought us here. You need to fix this shit. Go get your horse, go get your musket, and fix this shit. Because now the Democrats is trying to jab me up with all type of foreign objects because your dumbass signed up for it. Don't act like Ben Shapiro ain't triple jabbed up. Your last president wasn't triple jabbed up. Some of y'all was triple jabbed up. You jabbed your kids up for 18 years or 12 years before you sent them to school. You consented to this long ago, and now you're talking about, the jabby. Black people were complaining about autoimmune diseases from the jabby for over a decade or more. And y'all said y'all are anti-vaxxers. That's what they said, anti-vaxxers. I remember bringing it up. Republicans was calling me anti-vaxxer. Now all of a sudden they want to talk about adverse conditions. We've been saying this. There's a whole documentary on Netflix about this. We've been saying this. But when it's a Black life, nobody cares.
So we're going to let that be a mic drop.